this is your right to gripe. Is it not, Mark?
That's right. Thanks for tuning in. And polls are open until 8 p.m. tonight. And I believe it's until 7 p.m. in Georgia. But here in Hamilton County, they're open until 8 p.m.
It is so important to go and vote. To me, that is, well, I guess it gives you a right to gripe when you don't like it, things that happen.
That's
you don't like policies.
Yep.
To me, for anyone that doesn't take the time to go vote, they don't need to gripe.
That's right.
Well, we are joined today. We're going to have two very special guests. Before we invite our first guest on, I want to remind everyone, if you're tired of making your landlord rich, you want to know about the process of buying a home, whether it's buying your first home, downsizing, upsizing, investing in real estate, there's going to be a great opportunity this coming Thursday at the Hickory Valley Retirement Center, which is located at 6705 Ballard Drive in Chattanooga. We're partnering with People's Home Equity. We're having a lunch and learn. So for anyone that comes out, it's going to be a free lunch. We're going to share all this vast knowledge with you. So it's going to be a win-win, but it'll be from 11:30 to 1 this Thursday, March the 3rd. Speaking of real estate, we have with us today Nathan Guerrero. He is with Mortgage South. I am so pleased to have Nathan joining us today. How are you today, Nathan?
I'm doing fantastic.
How's business been?
It's great. We've been very fortunate to establish ourselves for 30 years now in this community, and have built a great name brand and done a lot of great things for Chattanooga, and we're blessed.
Well, you are the go-to specialist. That's my understanding. If anyone's wanting to do a reverse mortgage.
Well, that's all I've ever done in the mortgage industry, 10 years now. So I think that we have some knowledge that others don't, because that is all we do. We don't do 4 or 5 different types of loans or just stumble across a reverse mortgage every other month. We do them consistently, so that gives us an edge.
Now, for anyone listening out there that doesn't know what a reverse mortgage is, tell us what a reverse mortgage is.
A reverse mortgage is a federally insured loan by FHA, and it's designed for folks 62 and above to be able to pull out the equity that they've built up in their home over time and use those funds for whatever means they deem necessary, whether it's be just to maintain their current lifestyle, medical bills, remodel a home, whatever they'd like. But the difference is that with a reverse mortgage loan, you can pull those monies out, and there's no monthly mortgage payment for as long as you occupy the property as your primary residence.
So who qualifies for a reverse mortgage? Do you have to be a certain age? What are the criteria? Yes,
the age is for folks 62 and above. So that's who qualifies. You have to have some equity in your home, meaning if it's not all the way paid for, and my benchmark is 50%. You need to have at least 50% of your home paid for before we can probably work together.
Mm-hmm. So usually when someone's coming to you and they're 62 or older and they're wanting to do a reverse mortgage, what is their goal? What is it that you find that they're trying to accomplish?
Well, most people are just wanting to maintain their lifestyle. When you look at people that are looking to retire, or people that have retired, either they're outliving the money that they have, or maybe they saved money during retirement, maybe not that magic number, but they want to maintain that lifestyle during retirement, be able to do some traveling, be able to help the grandkids out, be able to live beyond just ends meet and enjoy life, and that's a big part of who I'm dealing with.
Now, for someone that's wanting to do a reverse mortgage, I'm just kind of curious. Let's say that they have several children, and they want to leave them something if they pass away. Is this a program that you recommend for someone like that, or is it something that you think is more beneficial for someone who doesn't have heirs?
Well, I deal with both sides. And the majority of people I deal with obviously have children, because the majority of people out there do have children of some sort. And with a reverse mortgage, when something happens to the last surviving spouse, whether that person passes away or can no longer occupy the property for 12 consecutive months, the heirs get three choices. The first choice is to sell the property, repay what the individual had borrowed and any interest that has accumulated over time, and they would keep the difference. So the average appreciation rate for a property in this area is 4%. It's pretty much nationwide what the average is, and we consistently with it. So if you look at a 4% appreciation in the value of the property, and you look at where interest rates are now and where they've been for the last 10 years, it's going to hang with really close what they've borrowed. So there is typically money left over for heirs to be able to split. But I always tell people that, you know, it may not work out that way. There's no way I can tell exactly what interest rates are going to do or exactly what the property value is going to be when someone departs the residence. But most of the time, people that I come in, you know, they would like to be able to do that. And if it happens, then that's a wonderful thing. But maybe their children are established and they have their own thing going on, and they've told mom and dad, hey, you guys need to enjoy your life. You've helped me. You've put me through college. You've done X, Y, and Z. We want you to be able to live the lifestyle you want to live during retirement. So, you know, if we get some funds when that happens, great. Right. If not, then you've been able to live a good life, and we're established and we have our own things. So it can work both ways, but that's what I tell people to go into.
I like to see people enjoying retirement. You know, it seems like people work so hard throughout their entire life, and then they retire later on in life and they're on up in years. And it seems like once they retire, they're going to the doctor and find that their health's declining, and they don't really have the opportunity to enjoy life. So I think for anyone that qualifies, I definitely like to see people traveling and living life up. Let's say that someone has taken out a reverse mortgage and they do pass away and they have kids. Is there a certain time frame there before a payment would kick in, or kind of explain how that process works if the person passes away and the kids are left holding a reverse mortgage on the property?
That's a great question. There is a 6-month allotment that HUD gives you, or FHA that's backing the loan. They're going to give the heirs that 6 months to be able to sell the property, take a loan out and pay the lender off, and then keep the property as long as they want. Okay. Or let it go back to the lender if it doesn't make sense. If the market's down and they just decide to say, hey, we'll just let the lender have the funds. Have the property. They got that 6 months. Now, when that 6-month period is over, there are 2 more 90-day extensions that can be given by HUD and the lender. Now, I typically always see that happen. People just need to be able to know when to file for those extensions that can get up to a year. So we have that year, right, if people are filing their extensions to be able to settle the estate.
So it sounds like you guys really try to reach out and work with them, and you're not just immediately foreclosing on the property. It sounds like that you're willing to work with them on payments and stuff. I'm just kind of curious, what kind of foreclosure rate do you see on reverse mortgages? And I'm kind of curious how, when the market declined, what kind of impact that you saw on your industry?
Well, just like the whole housing industry, when the market declined, it declined in a big way. And a lot of people that did reverse mortgages, just like any loan, when they did loans or reverse mortgages on property values that were really inflated, then sometimes when the market dropped to, 30, percent in value, we obviously had situations where now there's more owed on the property than what it's worth.
Absolutely. Upside down.
Right. And that happened not only in the reverse mortgage industry, but in the whole mortgage industry as a whole, as you know.
Absolutely.
So, that was part of it, and they dealt with it. When you had markets like California and Florida, there were people that did reverse mortgages that are still holding more money now than what the property's worth. So, that happened. And as far as the foreclosure rate, I'm not sure exactly what the rates are, but I can tell you this: FHA backs this loan, And if they were writing checks for every single loan where someone either passed away or could no longer live in the property, then we wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
So people are selling these homes and getting money above and beyond what the loan amount is. It's just, it's, I'd say it's, it's in line with the rest of the industry.
Well, for someone interested in doing a reverse mortgage, I'm just curious, do they need to own their home free and clear? Is that the only way they would qualify?
No, a lot of times I'll be dealing with people that are looking to retire, and maybe they're working. They say, man, I just want to stop working, but this mortgage payment's holding me back.
Yeah.
Well, let's say they have 50% of that home paid for. They have a $200,000 home and they have a $100,000 mortgage remaining on the home. Well, we can take the $100,000 that they have in equity, use it to pay off their $100,000 mortgage. Now they don't have a mortgage anymore. They don't have that mortgage payment anymore. And that can be $1,400 a month in some cases. So you're adding back $15,000 a year to somebody's monthly income for potentially the rest of their life. So that enables them to retire. Other folks that just have their whole property paid off, a lot of financial advisors are looking at reverse mortgage as a safety net for folks.
Yes.
Let's say they just open up a line of credit, which is typically what they do, and they take out $20,000 up front. Well, if they're a good steward of that line of credit, most people don't understand this about a reverse mortgage. That line of credit has a growth rate for them of about 5% guaranteed compounding interest.
Wow.
So if they have $100,000 when they start off, if they waited another 8 or 9 years, they could have $170,000 available to them through their line of credit to use as an income stream or use for medical expenses. So there's really an advantage to taking out a reverse mortgage and just letting it sit there till when you need to access it.
Well, it sounds like there are safety measures in place for anyone that takes out a reverse mortgage. And, seniors, I can see why seniors will be apprehensive in today's world, because we hear of all these scams out there, all these scams that are targeted to seniors. I mean, there's even, people that go up and knock on their door and scam them.
Sure.
So, there's definitely a problem with that. But it sounds like you feel that this is that this is safe for seniors and that there's safe measures in place to protect them.
Sure. Well, first of all, dealing with a local professional like us, somebody that's deeply rooted in our community, is very valuable. But second of all, if someone says, hey, they come speak with me, they take it home, think about it, pray about it, and they say, hey, reverse mortgage is a fit for us. Before I can even take an application, they have to go through third-party counseling. Someone is a HUD approved counselor that fully understands the loan. They go over the ins and outs just like I already have, but they go over the ins and outs of the loan, give them all kind of different options. And then I get a certificate back that they've completed the counseling. So you've talked to a third party that has no dog in the hunt, and then I get the counseling certificate. Then I'll call back and set the appointment for the application. So as well as talking to me, and I can talk to friends, family members, whoever is involved, talking to a third-party counselor.
Right.
Then we do the loan application. I explain all the documents. Then I'm at closing to explain all the documents. So they fully understand the loan when they get into it. And then you have that FHA insurance that guarantees that no matter what happens to the loan, if the market falls and interest rates rise, all these different things can happen. Their estate would never be liable for the loan. FHA backs it to secure that, nor are they personally. So even if they had to move away and pulled all their money out, they're not personally liable for it. So you have those FHA, safeguards, the counseling safeguards. So I consider it a safe loan.
Now, if a potential customer comes in the Mortgage South and they're trying to find out what their options are on a mortgage, what would you say to them? Why would they choose a reverse mortgage over a home equity line of credit or some other type of loan like that?
That's a good question. Well, the big differences between a home equity line of credit are this. And in a home equity line of credit, you're going to have lower closing costs. Okay.
Right.
They're going to be able to loan you more of the value than I can. Their loan to value is going to be higher. Okay. So those are the benefits to a home equity line of credit. Now, the negatives to a home equity line of credit is, first of all, you're going to have a monthly mortgage payment.
Right.
At some point, that home equity line of credit is going to amortize.
Yep, that makes sense.
Meaning that you're going to have to not only pay interest, but principal and
Absolutely.
interest. Okay. So now that payment could triple.
That's true.
And what if a spouse is passed? Now you have one income and you got a payment that was triple what it was. You could be in a foreclosure situation then. Okay. Also, like back in 2008 when we had the housing crisis, I know this firsthand because I had a home equity line of credit and they sent me a letter and said, you know, your home equity line of credit's been reduced from 95,000 to 20,000.
Right.
4 months later, I got a notice in the mail. I didn't have a home equity line of credit anymore. They pulled it back altogether. Banks can claw back those home equity lines of credit at any time. So if we had another financial situation where banks said, hey, we don't want that risk out there, they can pull them back. Well, with a reverse mortgage, those lines of credit are guaranteed and they're always guaranteed to grow. Now your closing cost is going to be higher. Okay. We're not able to lend as much money, but you're guaranteed to have those values.
Well, I'm kind of curious, just kind of as to the history of the reverse mortgage industry. I know it's changed over the years, and I'm kind of curious if you can just kind of walk us through how you've seen it evolve and what you think the future for the reverse mortgage industry is.
That's good. Well, first of all, the reverse mortgage industry became federally insured in 1987. Ronald Reagan, along with a bipartisan group of Democrats, they said, well, okay, believe it or not, that did happen at one time. Okay.
Remember to go vote.
At one point, people did actually step across the aisle and work together to get some things done. And we've kind of gotten away from that. But anyways, they got that done. They insured the loan and put the FHA safeguards in place. Okay. And then it progressed from there to where we're at today. Now, in the beginning years for up until just really recently, there was really no credit qualifications. There was really no debt to income qualifications. If you had a house that had a clean title and we had an appraisal that would work, we could really get your reverse mortgage completed. Well, the government said, if we're going to continue to insure these loans, then we're going to have to change the way we're doing things. We're going to have to vet, we're going to have to financially vet these people to make sure that they have to continue, they're able to pay their taxes and their homeowner's insurance, because that's part of their responsibility. That's a big part of reverse mortgage. You got to continue to pay your own taxes and insurance. So I have to look at someone's ability to pay for their property charges each month, taxes and insurance. And then also, do they have enough money after they've paid for those things and paid for their debts? Do they have enough money to live on each month?
Right.
If they don't pass that financial assessment test, then we may have to hold back enough of their funds to pay for their taxes and insurance moving forward. Now, people may not be able to access as much money in some cases, but they never have to worry about taxes and insurance again, based upon the current actuary tables of their lifespan. So, if we look at that, it's really good for them.
Yeah.
And it's good for the program. Because otherwise the program would probably have gone away because we couldn't keep going down that road. So those are the some big changes that have happened. And into the future, I think that we're looking good. We've seen a lot of investment lately from big players into our industry. So when you see that, you know that those people do their homework and they understand we're going to be around for a while. But I do encourage people, if you're thinking a reverse mortgage could be a fit for you, talk to someone like myself. Look at it, and if it is a fit, maybe you should go ahead and take that reverse mortgage, open up that line of credit, because I can't tell you what the government environment is going to look like moving forward with the political environment.
That's true.
Whether the program will be here in the same form that it's in 5 or 6 years. If we had super high interest rates suddenly, which I'm not anticipating, but it could happen, that would affect how much we can lend. But you know what? If we have another housing debacle where housing values go down low, now we can't loan as much money.
True.
I can tell you this, doing a reverse mortgage in the current environment, based on our current values, based on the system we have in place, even if you're not using those funds right now, you're better off to have it. When you do need it, you can just access it without the worry of going through the process.
Well, that's very true. I'm kind of curious. We've talked all about the loan and what all it entails. What is the credit qualifications?
Well, we're not necessarily looking at a credit score.
You're not.
We're looking at someone's history.
So you don't have a minimum credit score?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily. We're looking at, hey, do we have a lot of late payments? Are we leveraged really high? Do we have a lot of debt out there that we're struggling to pay? Have we look at the history of their homeowners insurance and their property taxes? Have they had timely payments on those in the last 24 months? That's really more what financial assessment is about.
So what are you telling those people that have a high level of debt? What can you do for them? Are you providing credit counseling? I mean, what are you doing for them?
Well, I'm helping them. And if they have enough equity in the property, if they've paid enough of their mortgage down, we can still do the loan. But we just may say, hey, we're going to have to do a set aside for your taxes and insurance.
Right.
You may still, instead of having $100,000 available to you, you may only have $50,000, but $40,000 of that we're going to put over here in an account to pay for your taxes and insurance, and you can take that $50,000 and pay off all these debts.
Well, it sounds like you're pretty lenient on
we are. We are more lenient than a traditional loan.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, typically, are you seeing credit scores as low as 600, 620?
We are.
Does that sound feasible?
We are. But you know what? I also see them as high as 800.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I'm doing a loan right now for a guy that don't have any heirs. And he says, you know what? I want my last check to bounce. So, if his property comes back in high enough, we're looking at probably close to a $300,000 appraisal. He'll get about $90,000 back. He's going to buy an RV with it, and they're going to travel when he retires.
He's going to enjoy life.
And he's got plenty of money in his retirement account. So we do loans for folks on all ends of the spectrum.
Well, as a realtor, I've heard of people using a reverse mortgage to even go out and purchase, say, a home or all kinds of things. You just said an RV. Are there any limitations as to what they can purchase?
No,
Are you overseeing that?
Well, there really aren't, as long as they qualify. And you can actually buy a brand new home with a reverse mortgage. I'm helping a couple that's 80. I'm helping a couple that's 83 years old do that right now. And you can contact me more for this later because I know we're going to be running short.
Yeah.
But in their scenario, they're buying a $265,000 property. We're going to loan them the mainstay of that.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to have to bring around $85,000 to the closing table of their money. We're going to loan them the balance, but we're going to put their 85 along with the money I can lend, put it together, and then they got a bought and paid for home, just paying taxes and insurance.
That's unbelievable. Well, for anyone looking to get in touch with you, Nathan, how can they get in touch with you at Mortgage South?
Give me a call, 423-624-3878. That's 423-624-3878. Or you can visit our website at mortgage-south.com. A lot of valuable information there. But let me advise you, sit down with a local professional, someone that's going to do the right thing by you here, walk you through that process. Doing this thing from 1,000 miles away, I've never heard someone really have a great experience, and trust me, it's worth dealing with a local professional.
Stay tuned. After the break, we've got a very special guest that will be here in the studios. And for anyone out there thinking about selling your home, our agents are sitting by waiting to hear from you. Sabrena Realty, 423-499-7780. That's 499-7780 or SabrenaRealty.com.
Thanks for tuning in. You're listening to the Sabrena Realty Hour right here at 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
Our house in the middle of our street. Our house.
Hi, I'm Sabrena with Sabrena Realty Associates. Now is a great time to sell your home. In our area, inventory is at an all-time low, which translates into higher sales prices. Call us today at 423-499-7780 to set up a free consultation and discuss our unique and aggressive marketing programs. We will provide you with a free market analysis to determine the right value of your home. Call us today at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at sabrenarealty.com.
Hello, I'm Mike Little, candidate for criminal court judge with 25 years of criminal court experience, which makes me the most qualified candidate. The experience I have gained from handling over 4,000 cases in state and federal court has equipped me with the ability to be fair, impartial, and independent. As your next criminal court judge, I will focus on keeping Hamilton County safe. I view this position as a public service and will strive to improve the daily operation of the court. I humbly ask for your trust and vote in the March 1st Republican primary.
Paid for by the committee to elect Mike Little. Barry Abbott, Treasurer.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio with your Hot News Now update. School will go on despite shooting threats at Ottawa High School. The principal, Jim Jarvis, sent an email to parents of students at the school informing them of 2 additional threats of a shooting written on a bathroom wall today. This is the 3rd time in 2 days that a threat of a shooting on March the 1st has been written on a bathroom wall at the school. Despite that, the principal says that school will go on. Some parents are voluntarily keeping their children home. On Monday, some parents checked students out of schools, and teachers said that attendance was down due to the continuing threat. Attendance is expected to be down again tomorrow. Parents are saying that they're keeping their students home. In Appleton, a 3-year-old boy has died after being shot on Monday morning inside of a car in Appleton. The Hamilton County Sheriff's Office was dispatched to that location at around 9:30 a.m. The preliminary investigation conducted by the Hamilton County Sheriff's Office indicates that the child was shot while inside of a family vehicle. The investigation is still ongoing, and it's currently not known if the shooting was intentional or accidental. If it's going on in the Tennessee Valley, it's going on Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Expect lots of clouds and mild weather out there through the afternoon. A few spotty showers will transition into a line of showers and stronger storms. Winds could be gusty with that highs upper 60s. Tonight, showers and storms will push off to the east. Overnight lows colder into the mid and upper 30s. More sunshine, chilly Wednesday highs near 50. Check out Dodge City Ski Shop, now featuring big savings with their end of the season sale with the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. That's Dodge City Ski Shop, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm 1412 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr. On AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go.
Welcome back to the Sabrena Realty Hour, where we talk all things real estate and community here on 1240 AM Hot News Talk Radio. Again, if you are thinking about buying a home or selling a home, our agents are sitting by waiting to hear from you. You can reach them at 423-499-7780 or visit our website at sabrenarealty.com. I am so honored to introduce our next guest, and it's so fitting with today being election day. Our next guest is none other than the assessor of property, Bill Bennett.
Well, thank you, Sabrina. I'm honored to be here.
Thank you
I'm
for being
honored to
here.
know people like you and other members of the commission that give their time back to this community to make it a better place to live.
Well, I tell you, Bill, have you gone out to vote yet, or have you still got to do that?
I've already voted. I voted about a week ago, I guess, in early voting. And I understand that there's an awful lot of people voting, even though the weather's kind of been a little bit bad this morning. But I think there's a huge crowd voting today in a lot of different places in Hamilton County. And that's good, because I think that everyone should get out and vote and tell people who they want to represent them.
Exactly. I tell you, I don't want to give you the big head here today, but I'm going to just be truthful with you. You are someone that I very much admire as a newly elected county commissioner. You are just someone I really look up to and admire. And I don't feel that way about everybody. I do that way about you. And I just love your wife, the Speaker of the House.
That's it.
Your family, you've been an encouragement to me. And I just appreciate you for your service. And I know that you are serving your last term.
That's right.
And there's 3 guys on the ballot today that are going to take your place. And we'll get into that in a few minutes. But I'm just kind of curious, and I'm intrigued to kind of hear your story.
Well,
and that's what I'm kind of hoping you can share with us today. I kind of want to hear how you first got interested in politics, why you decided to run for the county commission, and tell us about how you were in the minority when you were elected.
I'll be glad to tell you that. It's really a long story, but I'll do the best I can to kind of condense it down a little bit. But I guess in 1966, I was working at Combustion Engineering, and there was a young man that at that time, he's like myself now, he's got older, but his name was Ray Albright, and he decided he wanted to run for the Tennessee General Assembly.
Wow.
And he said he knew I was kind of interested in politics, and he asked me if I would help him, and I said I would. And at that time, there was no early voting. You voted on Election Day, and that was it. I said, I'll not only help you, Ray, but I'll take a day's vacation on Election Day, and I'll stand outside one of the polling places and try to get people to vote for you.
Wow.
And I remember at that time, Albert Gore was on old Albert Gore was on the ballot that same year, and that was a long time ago, about that's 50 years ago.
Wow.
So Ray run, and he won, and we had a lot of help from a lot of other people that way that was in that Harrison area, and at that time it went across the river and took in a lot of over on the other side of the river. But we had at that time helping us Claude Ramsey and Bobby Wood and myself and Lamar McDaniel and Amos Croft and Bud Shearer, and we won.
Wow.
So Ray moved on up from the legislature, the being the House of Representatives, up to the Senate. And at that time, it was Bill Brock was in Congress, and Bill Brock run for the United States Senate and won it. Lamar Baker moved up and took his place. He was in the state Senate, and he moved up and took the congressional seat, and Ray moved up and took the state Senate seat that he had, and then Claude ran for Ray's seat, and he won, and I helped him.
Yeah.
And so finally, after a while, after Claude had served a little while, after he'd left the House of Representatives and come over and run for the county commission, he ran in 78 for the commission.
Yeah.
And he served 2 years on the commission, and then he moved over and ran for the assessor of property seat and won it. So we were driving home that night after we'd watched the results, and Bobby Wood and I was riding together, and he said, "Why don't you run for Claude's seat now?"
Wow.
And I said, "Well, I hadn't really thought about doing that, Bobby." And I really didn't even know what the Hamilton County Commission did exactly at that time. So I went down there.
It's probably much different back then than it is today.
It was different. But anyway, I went down there and talked to Dalton Roberts at that time, who was county executive. And I told him, I said, "I'm thinking about doing that." And he said, "I hope you do." And to make a long story short, when I ran, I won. And when I got there, there was 9 people, just like there is now, but 8 of those people just happened to be Democrat people, and I was the only Republican on there at that time. So I would walk in every time we'd have a commission meeting, and I'd look at those guys. They'd be sitting around Dalton's desk, probably breaking a sunshine law, talking. and I'd say, what are you guys going to do today? You can do anything you get ready to do. So they liked me pretty well. I got along with them pretty good. So to make a long story short, then I served there for 14 years, and I did some things on the commission I'm kind of proud of. We started the ambulance service. We did not have an ambulance service in Hamilton County. We was one of 4 counties in the state of Tennessee that didn't have an ambulance service, and we were the 4th largest county. And what caused that, I guess more than anything, my wife and I had been down to the convention center one night, and we were traveling home, and we came upon this accident where there's a little Volkswagen Beetle upside down in the road, and a young man that was going to UTC at that time died right there in the middle of the road. Sad. And I called. We went over and beat on the door, and we called, and they called and got the ambulance to come down there. It took 37 minutes to get there because the guys was home in bed. I had to get up, go down to the ambulance station, get an ambulance, and drive down there. So the guy had passed away by the time we got there. I went in the next commission meeting and told the commission we need to do something about that. Yeah. And it took several $1 million to do that, but they appointed me to be the chairman of the ambulance committee to get it started. And we did that. That's a big accomplishment. And it worked out good, and I'm proud of that. And then the other thing is I went out to see my daughter in Memphis, who was living out there at that time. She now lives in Tampa. And they had development going on out there, out in the county galore. Yeah. I come back and told Dalton, I asked Bill Morris, who was the mayor of Shelby County at that time, I said, how are you doing all of this? And he said, you can't do it without sewers. And so I told Dalton, I said, we need to get a sewer out there somewhere and start it. And we did. We put up $6 million of the Campbell County Commission's money to start the WWTA. And we started getting development. You can't have development around exit 11 like you've got, where you got motels and Cracker Barrels and so forth. You just can't have it without a sewer. That's right. So we got it out there, and it's worked real well, and I'm proud of that. Then later on, Claude ran for the county executive seat, and he encouraged me to run for the assessor seat at that time. I mean, where I am now. Well, he was the assessor. Well, let me ask you this. So how long had you served on the commission at that time? 14 years. Yes, that is unbelievable. Well, let me ask you this. Now, you started being the only Republican. Yeah. When you finished your 14-year tenure, tell us how that makeup was. I'll be glad to tell you that. I bet you got them all in a headlock and converted them. I did a lot of that. But anyway, I served as the chairman of the commission 3 years, 3 different terms. Yeah. But to make a long story short about that now, we started out and we got Coker and Dr. Nolan on there, and that made 3. And then we got Ralph Barger, and that made 4, and he was from Red Bank. And then we got, this boy beat Sumperak, by the way, and Sumperak was a legend in politics at that time, but his name was Buster Vandergriff, and at that time we had 5. So I would go in every time I'd go into the commission meeting, and I'd say, guys, I'm going to tell you something. We got 5 votes here today. I can take 5 votes and move the courthouse to Ooltewah. And that's where that started. But anyway, we did real good with that, and I think the reason why we did so good, really and truly, I mean this, we had good people that was running for office, just like we've got a good person running for office right today for my seat that I'm in, and there's 3 of those guys running. I didn't know if you meant for you to get into this. No, we're going to get into that. Okay, we're going to get into that. I'm kind of curious now. When you decided to run for assessor of property, was that something you were passionate about? Did you know much about the office? Yeah, I did know quite a bit about the office because I was dealing with them an awful lot. Because think about this. When I was with Bobby Wood, we was in the insurance business up there on 58 Highway. Right. And we really got in good with the real estate people, Bobby and I did. Yeah. That's the way it pays to get in good with the real estate people. It really does. That's the way we built that business, because they would be people coming here from all over the country, just like they are now, to want to live here and to buy a home here. And they'd buy a $300,000 home, and the real estate person would say, now, when you get this home, you're going to have to finance it, and you're going to have an insurance policy. That's true. On it. And that guy'd say he'd be from Dallas or Los Angeles, where he was from, and he'd say, well, I don't know anybody here. And they'd say, well, let me tell you what, you need to call these guys right here, and they'll do everything that needs to be done for you. And they'd call us, and we'd go meet the guy, and he'd say, this is what it is, and this is what I'm giving for it, and so forth. First thing I'd do is I'd call the assessor of property's office, and I'd say, this guy's giving $300,000 for this house. What have you guys got on it? I just want to make sure that he wasn't getting taken aback by it, or whether or not he was getting a bargain on it. So they'd tell us exactly what was on it, and they'd tell us the square feet in it. They'd give us the little map of the house, and everything. We had the entire goods because we had the assessor's office that we could talk to. You can still do that today. You can still do the same thing today, and you can get any information out there you want today.
Now, how long have you served as assessor of property?
It'll be 22 at the end of the term. Now, a lot of people don't understand this. I've had people walk up to me and say, well, how are you enjoying retirement? Well, I'm not retired yet. It's the end of the term.
Exactly.
It goes through August the 31st. And then August 31st, on September the 1st, the next day, somebody's going to hold up their hand in front of the judge and be sworn in as the new assessor of property.
So you've been serving the citizens of Hamilton County for 36 years in public office. 36. That is unbelievable.
Well, I tell you, it really is. And there's a guy introduced me the other day, Sabrena, and I didn't even know this. I hadn't even thought about this. And he introduced me like this. He said, we have today with us the guy that has served as a Republican person. I mean, actually elected as a Republican longer than any other person in the history of Hamilton County. I did not know.
Wow, that is unbelievable.
And I guess that's the way it is. Now, there's a lot of guys like Bobby Wood. He served 28 years in the legislature, and there's a lot of that's going on, but 36 is a good
But you
while.
were doing it when Republican wasn't even popular.
No, it wasn't popular. We could meet in a phone booth just about.
That's unbelievable. Well, I'm kind of curious, going back 20-something years ago when you first were elected to the assessor's office, kind of tell us how the office was then and what all you've accomplished during your tenure as the assessor of property and where it is today. Because, there's been all these candidates are saying, we're going to revolutionize that office and bring it up to date. But yet I've read letters of current employees that are proud of how up to date that office is and how it functions.
We've got a great staff of people, but we've got a wonderful office too. I'll just start out with this. When I went in there, we still got 1,400 maps. That's the number of maps that it takes to cover the entire county.
Right.
And we got 1,400 of those. All 1,400 of those, when I got there, was done by pen and ink or pencil and paper. And a guy would buy 10 feet off of his neighbor, and they would have to take and erase that line.
Yeah.
And make this 100 feet instead of 90, and make this over here 80 instead of 90.
Yeah.
And that was all done manually. And we digitized all those maps because we got a gift from at that time Governor Sundquist to do that, because Claude had been his campaign manager, and I had people all over the state calling me saying, how did you guys get the money to do those maps? Well, we got it that way, to be honest with you. But we moved that all the way from manual to now digitized, and it's excellent. Really, really a great system. All right, then we had an old mainframe, and we was the last. You guys, well, you wasn't there at that time, but they kept telling us it's costing so much money to maintain the mainframe, and you're the only guy that's still left on it. So I went to Claude and I told him, and he was county executive at that time. I said, Claude, we really need to change the software out there.
Yeah.
And he said, well, you find the right software and we'll try to come up with the money. We went to lots of different places and interviewed lots of different software companies before we finally decided on the one we got. In fact, we were down to two, and we was down to one that was called Manatron, and we was down to Patriot Properties, which is located in Boston. Manatron was located up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we thought we was going to go with Manatron until we went to a place where they already had it. And they didn't mean for this lady to say that to us, because they had all walked out of the room, and she was showing us how they did it. And she said, She looked around and shook her head and said, whatever you do, don't get this system.
Wow.
So we were traveling back to Chattanooga, and I had all those people with me, and they said, did you hear what that woman said? I said, I sure did. So I said, we come back, and we called Boston and asked Jimmy McCatherine to come down and do us one more display of what he could do. And we ended up with Patriot Properties, and we've been with them about 5 or 6 years now. Went through a reappraisal with them, and it went better than any we've ever had. And the next one will be too, if we get the right people in there to take care of this situation. And as far as transparency is concerned, I don't know a person, not one person that lives in Hamilton County that can't find out everything about their property or their neighbor's property today.
That's true.
Today. I don't know.
That is true. That's true.
If you want to come in there and look at it on the computer yourself, you want to call on the telephone and let them give it to you over the phone, you want them to fax you something, whatever you want, you can get it, and it's transparent. Why would we want to hide your property or my property? In fact, we don't do that. It's as good as you get.
It sounds like you've made it very transparent, very efficient, and you've really looked out for the taxpayer dollars, which is something I appreciate.
Well, we have. We've run it very economically too, and we've got a good group of people. And these, in fact, I don't mind telling you, when I went in there, we had 44, and we got 40 now, and a lot of it's due to the good software we've got and the good mapping system we've got.
That's great.
It sure is.
Bill, I've got a question. Of course, experience is going to be important, somebody new coming into your position, but how about a man's character and integrity? How important is that to lead that office and to move them forward and to make sure that everything's being done right and the right things are being done?
Well, it's really, really important. Here's a situation I think we've got. We've got 3 people running out there, and I'm not going to throw rocks at anybody, but the guy that Claude Ramsey and I are for, and let me tell you what happened on that. I'm sitting there about 3 months ago, and the phone rung, and it was Claude. He said, you know what? He said, we need to make sure that we get a good person in there and somebody that knows something about it. And he said, I hired this guy in 1985, and he worked for me until I left, and then he worked for you a long time until he left to do some other things down in some of those underprivileged countries down there in Haiti and places. And he said, we need to be for Sterling Jeton. I said, Claude, I said, what are you going to do about it? I said, I wanted to get him out there. And he said, well, I'm going to endorse him, and you should too. And I said, Claude, the day you endorse him, you hand me the microphone, and I'll do the same thing. And we did that the same day. And we've been for him all day long, every day. And he's the right guy to be in there, to be honest with you. Sterling Jeton's his name. Now, the other 2 guys, I'm not going to say bad stuff about those guys, but one of them has no experience. The other boy does have some experience. And I endorse Sterling, okay?
Well, coming from you and also from your predecessor, that's pretty important that you two have knowing the office and knowing the position and what it entails, and then knowing something about at least one or more of the candidates, you guys unanimously been for Sterling.
Well, let me say this, Mark. The easiest thing that I could have done was on August the 31st, got out of my seat and walked out.
Yeah.
That'd have been the easiest thing. I've got 40 people in there, and those people asked me to do what I'm doing. They said, help us get the right person in here. And that's what I've done this entire time that these guys have been on the ballot running. So
for anybody that hasn't made up their mind who they're going to vote for assessor of property today, share with them, and I haven't asked you this, share with them what it was about Sterling that stood out and made him shine above the rest, and why you picked him hands down, because it doesn't sound like you had to even think about it.
I didn't have to think about it. Let me tell you the reason. I don't mind telling you this. The ladies sometimes would come back there to see me, or they would call me on my phone, and they'd say, there's a person on the phone, and he is really, really upset. And he don't think that we've got his property valued right.
Right.
And they'd say, he don't want to talk to anybody but you. And I'd say, well, put him on the phone. I'll talk to him. Mm-hmm. And I could tell when I was talking to the guy, he really didn't like something we had done.
Right.
So I'd say, well, sir, let me tell you what I'm going to do. if you will let me do this, I am going to have a young man call you, and I'm going to have him set up an appointment with you. He's going to knock on your door, and he's going to say, let me come in and you show me everything about this place, this house that's falling in or bad. Floors falling in, ceiling falling in, or whatever it is. And I said, will you let me do that when I'd call that guy? And he'd say, yeah. I'd say, well, I'm going to do that. I would always send Sterling Jeton out there because I knew when he went out there, he was going to handle it right. He was not going to make the mad any more mad than what he already was.
Right.
In fact,
That's
he was
important.
He was going to settle him down, and he was going to say, I'm going to look at it, and I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do what's right on this, sir. And Mr. Bennett then will call you back. He would come back, and he'd say, that guy's right. We got a problem out there. We don't go in houses when we're real praising. We just view them from outside. There's too many of them to stop and go in. But anyway, I'd say, I'm going to fix it, sir, because you're right. And my guy has come back and told me exactly the truth. And I believe you got to have somebody that's very truthful.
You do.
Well, Bill, I just want to, first of all, thank you for your service. I'm going to miss you when you leave that office, regardless of who takes your place. I sincerely mean that. I know I had the pleasure of doing some campaigning with you because you were out campaigning for your son when I ran, and I got to know you and your family then. And I know you have to have a lot of love and support from your family to serve as long as you have. And I know you have a wonderful wife. And I know she's trained you well because you call her the Speaker of the House.
She is the Speaker of the House.
And I just love you guys and adore you. And I'm going to miss you when you are gone. And I encourage anyone that hasn't gone to vote, they need to go vote today because this is a very important position, this assessor of property.
Very, very important.
And you leave mighty big shoes for someone to fill. I'll say that. I want to remind everyone again about the buyer seminar we are having. If you're tired of making your landlord rich and you want to buy a home, you want to upsize, downsize, invest in real estate, come out for a free lunch and learn. That will be at the Hickory Valley Retirement Center at 6705 Ballard Drive in Chattanooga, Tennessee. If you're thinking about selling your home, and you've been apprehensive about putting it on the market because you didn't know if you were going to be able to get what you were hoping to get. Well, the market is booming. We have a shortage of the homes. We need more homes to sell. Sellers are getting phenomenal sales prices because there's less competition. Please call Sabrena Realty if you're in the market to buy or sell. You can reach us at 423-499-7780. That's 499-7780, or visit our website. Tell them how to visit our website, Mark.
You can go to SabrenaRealty.com. Sabrena's SABRENA, SabrenaRealty.com. And thank you for tuning in to the Sabrena Real Estate Hour right here at 1240 a.m. Hot News Talk Radio.
Join us again this Thursday from 11:30 to 1 for the Lunch and Learn at Hickory Valley Retirement. We'll be back with you next week.
Push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd.